Good morning and welcome to the Reckoning Brothers Afternoon Tea Edition podcast. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? We had a nice session last night. I enjoyed it, and let's keep it going with ours today.
Yeah, we did. Mark is really fine tuning his ranting abilities, and
Yeah, I don't know about that.
he's getting. I think he's getting significantly better. I think he's getting significantly better. I look forward to editing that one.
Yeah.
But Josh is going to be our last part of our talking about the is 4-year generic middle class college directionalist college worth it in 2025. We talked about the money that you'd make versus tuition costs. We talked about what employers are looking for and the value of the degree. The last thing I wanted to get into was the accreditation process of the colleges themselves to show what a college actually is in the free market, how they're able to compete, what they teach, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So here's the really boring stuff in a nutshell. I know this is boring, so Josh, feel free to play some music inside of your brain while I go through this to make it seem more exciting. The federal government recognizes certain accreditors according to their Council for Higher Education Accreditation, the CHEA. It's funded in 1996, which took over a previous organization that did the same thing. The CHEA also belongs to a international governing body called the Quality Assurance Agencies in Higher Education. They all coordinate together, discuss accreditation groups. There are approximately 64 accrediting organizations in the United States. The two major kinds are regional accreditors and specific discipline accreditors, like the American Bar Association is, for instance, right, with the becoming a lawyer. That's pretty much accreditation, right? So how it works, though, is if you're a college and you want to become in accredited colleges, you have to create a self-evaluation, compare it to the standards of the accreditor that you're going to accredit to, usually regional. There's an external peer review team that conducts an on-site visit to verify and inspect aspects such as like governance, administration, school curricula, all that kind of shit. The accreditors review, report, and make decisions on the status of the school. It either gives you a full accreditation, denies it, or you get some kind of probationary status. And if successful and you become an accredited school, you have to undergo these reviews every 4 years by these accreditors, which are made up of peers from different schools in this accreditor's purview. Right? Does this make sense? I know it's boring,
Yeah,
Josh.
but I fell asleep a little bit.
All right, yeah. That's as quick and down and dirty as I can make accreditation.
What's the regional versus like national?
Well,
Uh,
so there are like
for
national accreditors,
community?
but it's not as big. The top two were the regional accreditation. From what I could tell, this is just like a historical fact. This is how it was like created. You know, is it started out as regional, so those were just kind of became the big ones, right? They're just kind of embedded. And then the second one was the discipline specific ones, and the American Bar Association is the example that people always seem to come back to.
So what happens if you're not accredited? I mean, what's the difference between accredited and non-accredited?
Then you're almost not a real college. You're not
Almost.
a real college. I mean, just think of it, if you come to get a job and you've got a degree and it's from a university that's not accredited, there's no reason that you should be taken serious. I mean, the accreditation process exists for a reason, right? I'm about to go through the negatives of it, but accreditors have a standard that you have to hit. Throughout all its flaws, they still have a standard that you have to hit to become a college. Otherwise, just any fucking jackass could say, "Oh, I'm the university or whatever," and then it just leads to mail-in scams and shit like that. So you have to have an accreditation to prove that you're legitimate. If you
Okay.
don't have that,
You
I
also
wouldn't.
lose federal funding
That's
or
part of it too. That's
FAFSA
part of it too, and that's a
potential.
positive and
Okay.
negative part. So yeah, you have to be accredited to get federal grants or for federal student loans. You have to be an accredited college from one of these 64 or so accreditation agencies that the CHEA recognizes. That's a huge part of it.
Okay.
Absolutely. You want to hear some downsides?
Hit me.
You're familiar with the Cato Institute, so I have to say these are what Andrew Gillen at the Cato Institute points out. So they obviously have a slant. I'm kind of a fan of what little I know of them, but this should be said, right? Full disclosure. He finds 5 flaws in this. Number one, accreditors fail their quality assurance role. So a group of peers is what makes up this accreditation body. A group of peers can't be a good regulator. They can only be a good consultant. Why, do you ask? Because when you're dealing with a regulator, your incentive is to hide your problems so that the regulator
Mm,
doesn't shut you down. If you're dealing with a consultant, your incentive is to highlight your problems so that the consultant can help you fix them when
that makes
they're
sense.
coming in as regulators. So your incentive is to hide your problems. Would you agree with the Cato Institute on that?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, dealing with uh, places we've worked at,
Mm-hmm.
restaurants and whatnot, and you know the safety people coming in, we would tend to hide things.
Yep, exactly. You deal with incentives. We respond to incentives as human beings always, right? And that's this is an incentive structure. That's what it allows for. Number two, accreditors focus on inputs and processes. They assume quality by focusing on the same recipe. So if you hit these check marks, you're a good quality school, right? When you do this, it makes it unlikely to find new ways to deliver higher quality, lower cost education, right? It stunts innovation. Does this make sense to you? Number
That
two.
absolutely does. Yes.
I agreed 100%. As well, number three, accreditation is kind of like a cartel, right? So accreditation committees are made up overwhelmingly of staff from other colleges that the accreditor organization oversees. What this does is it kind of creates a you scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of thing, right?
I
Once
was going to
again,
say, is there a quid pro quo there? Yeah.
exactly, people respond to incentives. So what this does, it means newcomers have to get permission from their competitors to enter this market. Easy accreditation for your insiders, but if you're becoming an if you're an outsider trying to break in, you have huge obstacles because of this. Does that make sense to you there
I
as
can
well?
see where you would. Yeah, absolutely. And
I mean,
and, and no other industry is that a thing.
exactly, exactly right. If you want to make a restaurant, do you have to go to all the restaurants in the area and have them come through and review all the restaurant owners and you know make sure that
They
you
have their
hit
little
these check
Yelp
marks?
checks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Yelp is a whole nother. I'd love to talk about Yelp and how much they suck and how I don't respect their organization at all whatsoever. And I think that the world will be a better place if they cease to exist. Number four.
There's a South Park episode on that.
I must have seen it. I've seen all the episodes. I'm drawing a fucking mental blank though.
Oh, everybody in town was a Yelper, and they would go into a restaurant and say, "I'm a Yelp
Yes.
reviewer," and they would get the best
Yes.
service. Yeah,
Yes. 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 I got to rewatch that one now.
it's a good one.
Number four. Accreditors increase costs. If you revoke, this is what you were asking about earlier. So if you revoke accreditation from a school, they can't get federal student loans, federal grants any longer. So it's a huge financial loss if you lose this accreditation, right? So if you want to stick around, if you want to get that sweet, sweet federal money, you have to do what the accreditors say. This leads to basically blackmail. I mean, you can basically blackmail a school into doing what you want, right? Like, it was such a shame if you were to lose all that sweet, sweet federal grant and federal student loan money, wouldn't it? University of Mississippi or whatever. You know, you better teach what we want to. Better teach what we want to teach. I don't know if I like some of the stuff coming out of your biology department there, University of Delaware.
Yeah,
You know,
I can see where this could become corrupt really quickly,
yep.
and
Um,
maybe that's why our education costs are where they're at.
it might just be right. People like to make money. The bureaucracy is expanding to meet the ever expanding needs of the
You gotta
bureaucracy.
you gotta grease the hand of the accreditor, which was cost the student tuition. They have to have the money come from somewhere.
I'm sure these people are all 100% ethical, and we don't need to worry about any of these problems. Number 5, accreditors can abuse their power, just like we were
No,
getting into. Yeah, I know, right? So, the American Bar Association, this is a law school accreditor, can insist that colleges ignore. Apparently, this has happened with them before. Allegedly, apparently, whatever. I don't know that this is a fact or not. Rumor, something, blah blah blah. Legalese. The American Bar Association insisted that colleges ignore state laws that they disapprove of. Right. This can also lead to favored ideologies being pushed. Right? There are many examples of this. Two gentlemen that I did not research, Adam Kissel and Tim Rossenberger, have many examples. There's links in this article. I'll post the article of accreditors pushing progressive agendas, for instance. I know that's so hard to believe that colleges might.
Shocking. And
Uh,
you
you,
know, that kind of goes down to the high school level too. I mean, the U.S. government's been pushing down the progressive ideologues, and you know that they're getting that sweet, sweet federal money.
yeah, and these progressive ideals come from colleges, right? If you, that's in America, that's where they're going to come from. I mean, kids may learn shit from the internet to you, blah 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 blah, but it really gets driven home when you're in colleges. So this is totally easy for me to believe. Um, that sums up that article. In After saying all this, all these negatives of accreditation, I think, is 100% necessary. It just, if you bend and change some of these incentive structures, I think it could be way better. But maybe a national organization would be better and less uh, less able to be corrupted. You know, can you get in
Yeah.
untouchables? The untouchables of fucking college accreditation organizations, some Elliot Ness motherfucker out there cleaning this stuff up.
Hey,
I'd
we
like to
got a
see it.
Musk doing some cleanup right now. So,
We've
but
got
this
Doge.
is
We could
private,
see.
right? These are private institutions. You wouldn't necessarily fall under the same purview as the federal government.
Yes, it's one of these private public collaboration things because you have the CHEA, which is a government agency, but these organizations are made up of these individual schools, right? So it's a collaboration between the two.
Yeah.
So it's just like a lot of other things, right? But I I would just like to see incentive structures being different because everything that they pointed out in this Cato Institute article just makes perfect sense to me. But the question we asked at the beginning is a generic 4-year degree, is generic, vanilla, directionless. I don't know what my major is. 18-year-old, should I go to this college when I don't know what I want to do thing worth it? Initially, before I started doing the research, my answer was no, it's not worth it. My answer now is the stats and everything we've discussed, it probably is just barely for now. Talk to me again in 5 years. Josh, what do you think?
That's a very good point. And I think the overarching theme of this whole thing has been what weigh this, weigh that. Yeah.
Yep. We're putting
So
marbles like we just talked about before
yeah,
on the scales.
yeah. So and we should have done that. That would have been an interesting little
I
thing.
don't have that kind of money. I can afford like marbles and scales.
Well,
Broke, man.
I did a little tiny bit of reading right before this and just kind of refresh my brain into how the what we've been talking about. And it kind of depends on what you're searching. Should
Mhm.
my kid go to college?
Yeah.
Why should my kid not go to college? Brings up totally different results, obviously, but there are those champions that say these are the reasons why you should. And there's champions, these are the reasons why you shouldn't. So it's marbles. And I think it all comes down to the kid. It depends on the
Mhm.
kid, what he wants or she wants to do, what the desire is, and the level of accountability that they have. And if you can determine that as a parent, you can make the decision for yourself, or the child can make the decision. The only thing that I've collectively found is you can straddle yourself with a whole lot of debt in a really short period of time
Hmm.
and not have a degree.
True. Or a
So
worthless one.
yeah,
It's not nearly as easy a decision as I thought before doing this too. It's a hard decision, but I would caution a young person to understand that there are college paths that can lead towards success, and there are ones that just don't lead towards anything. They're just bullshit degrees. Don't let yourself be susceptible to that. Would be my number one piece of advice. Make it something useful. You can follow your dreams on your own time, right? And you can prepare for a career on the college time.
yeah,
It's kind of the way I would suggest looking at it.
a nice little
But
risk reward scenario there. But yeah,
yeah, yeah, and but the like I said, talk to me again in 5 years. AI, everything that's happening in the world, I could see me having a complete 180, completely different decision. Yeah.
yeah, for
But
sure.
also, my number one thing I say to college is make this shit cheaper. There's no reason for these costs.
It really isn't. Yeah,
Get rid of
it
your
is out of
ridiculous
control.
administrative bloat. Just get rid of that. Fire a bunch of people. Dogify the colleges, and we'll probably be way better off. And some people are going to lose their jobs, but they are not doing things of value. This is that's one thing I didn't do research on, but I've heard many people smarter than myself talking about is just administrative bloat. Where you have some colleges that have, one administrator for every two students or something like that. These just crazy, crazy high amounts of administration. That's administration, not teachers,
Yeah,
right? This is unnecessary. You can't convince me that this is necessary. If it is necessary, there are so many problems in your college that you probably don't need to exist.
and the textbook costs are
That's another thing too. Textbook costs.
absolutely insane.
Yeah, yeah. These are rackets. These are rackets. You are taking far more money than you deserve.
And we have the professors that are assigning the textbook that they wrote and charging $400 for the book. That come
Yeah,
on.
I like. Come on, come on. You need to start being reasonable. If you can't hold this. Oh, I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. I have this special position. I'm so special and smart, and run a racket like that. You can't have both. You can't have it both ways. Sorry.
Yeah.
You want to be a shyster. You want to be the guy on that 1990s commercial wearing the Riddler uh, outfit. Remember that guy? And he had the book he was selling, which just shows you how to get the government to pay for grants and everything.
Oh yeah, now I know what
You
you're talking about.
remember that?
Yeah, that was a nice
Yeah,
little
you can't be that
infomercial.
and make me take you seriously as a college professor. That doesn't
Yeah.
work. These are two different things. They are incompatible.
You know how many times I almost bought that book?
I assumed you'd bought it. I was going to ask you for a copy. I was like, does this shit work? Does
Uh,
this work? No, that was an impressive commercial because we all remember it, right?
yeah,
Oh, man, but I love talking about this, and I love the fact that I actually had my mind changed a bit, you know,
that's
through
nice. Yeah,
research and being open minded. And that is what I want to talk about with you and Mark next time. Yeah,
about
so I
being
look
open
forward to that
minded,
conversation
or
about the necessity of being open minded and thinking about everything from first principles and the problem of people not understanding that they are subject to cognitive biases every second of every day and the amount of work and self reflection it takes to not be constantly swept away. It's in the seriousness in which you should take that.
nice. Well, I look forward to that.
I do too. Josh, anything else before we get out of here?
No, let's
I
wrap
don't
it
know why I
up.
said that like that. I promise I
Yeah,
won't do it
yeah.
again. I'll get out of here.
All
Go
right,
get. All right, man.
all
Been
right.
great talking. I will catch you next week.